I was sitting in a school principal's office, trying not to cry while two of the most self-righteous people I had ever met in my life looked at me like I was garbage. The mother leaned forward, her designer blazer perfectly pressed, and said, and I want you to really hear this, some women simply aren't built to raise children alone. Your daughter's behavior is a direct reflection of your failures as a mother. I felt the room spin. They had a letter on the table, a typed formal letter. They wanted me to sign it, admitting that I was a bad mother, that my broken home caused my daughter's problems, that I, a single mom who had worked double shifts, skipped meals, and sacrificed everything for her child, was the problem. I almost signed it. But then I made one phone call to a man I had pushed away for 20 years. And what happened next? Those two walked out of that office humiliated, silent, and completely destroyed. If you've ever been told you're not enough, hit that like button right now. Because this story is for every single parent who ever had to fight twice as hard just to be seen. My name is Hazel. I'm 38 years old. And for most of my life, I built walls so thick that love couldn't get through, but neither could pain. That strategy started when I was 13 years old. I came home one afternoon to find my mother, Kara, sitting on the kitchen floor. She was crying. In her hands was proof, physical, undeniable proof that my father had been cheating on her. Not just cheating, leaving. He didn't sit us down. He didn't explain. He just disappeared, packed up his life, and started a new one with someone younger, someone he apparently found more worthy of his time. He left us in a 2-bedroom apartment with nothing but unpaid bills and broken promises. My mother worked 3 jobs after that. I wore secondhand clothes. I learned to take care of myself because there was simply no one else available to do it. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, I wrote my first rule about men. Their love is temporary. It always has an expiration date. 3 years later, my mother met William. He was stable, kind, and genuinely successful. He owned commercial real estate across half our city. He had money, influence, and a calm confidence about him that made him seem untouchable. And that terrified me, because I had seen this before. The polished surface, the charming smile, the man who seems different, right up until he isn't anymore. I refused to give William a single inch. I wouldn't call him dad. I wouldn't accept gifts. When he offered to pay for my college education, I turned him down and took out student loans instead. Loans I'd be paying back for years just to prove a point. On my 18th birthday, I moved out and never looked back. I told myself it was strength. Looking back now, I know it was fear wearing strength's clothes. I met Michael when I was 22, exhausted, and working double shifts at a downtown cafe to pay down debt. He was 25, effortlessly charming, always one big project away from his breakthrough. He noticed me, and after years of building walls, after years of convincing myself I didn't need anyone, that felt like oxygen after drowning, he waited for me after shifts, brought me coffee, told me I was beautiful even when I was covered in it. He made me laugh. He made me feel less alone. We moved in together after 6 months. It felt reckless and perfect. Then I got pregnant. Michael seemed excited at first. He talked about baby names, about getting a bigger apartment, about stepping up. I believed him. I let myself imagine a future where I didn't repeat my mother's story. But pregnancy has a way of showing you exactly who someone is when love stops being fun and starts requiring sacrifice. He started coming home later. He smelled like bars and excuses. He stopped asking about doctor's appointments. He stopped touching me. And when I was 7 months pregnant, swollen, exhausted, and completely vulnerable, I found the messages. He wasn't even sorry. He said I had changed, that I was always tired, that I wasn't fun anymore. As if carrying his child was some kind of inconvenience to his social life. He packed a bag and left. Just like my father, just like every man who had ever been trusted with my heart. My daughter Martha was born 6 weeks later. He wasn't there. He never came to meet her. Never sent money. Never called. He simply deleted us from his life as if we had never existed. And just like that, my second rule was carved in stone. Every man will eventually betray you. It's not a question of if, it's only a question of when. For 15 years, I raised Martha alone, and I was proud of that. Until the day that pride almost cost my daughter everything. Martha was 10 years old when the bullying started. It began small, whispers, exclusion at recess, giggling when she walked by. But it escalated fast. A girl named Amanda, daughter of 2 of the most arrogant parents in our entire school district, had decided to make Martha's life a living nightmare. Amanda didn't just tease. She was calculated, precise. She cornered Martha every single day and delivered the same line. Like a knife she kept sharpening. You don't have a dad because your mom is a bad woman. That's why he left. That's why nobody wants you. She weaponized my choices. She took the wound I had carried silently for decades and drove it directly into my daughter's chest every single day. Martha tried to be strong. She tried to ignore it. But when Amanda destroyed Martha's art project, something my daughter had worked on for weeks, and laughed and said, "Girls without fathers don't deserve to win anything," Martha snapped. She shoved Amanda hard. Amanda fell and scraped her knee. The next morning, I got the call. The air in Principal Harrison's office felt heavy the moment I walked in. Andrew and Amber Denton were already seated, dressed like they were about to walk into a courtroom. Andrew was a mid-level attorney who acted like he ran the city. Amber was a real estate agent who confused her commission checks for a crown. They looked at me the way people look at something they've already decided. Doesn't matter. Principal Harrison sat behind his desk, fingers interlaced, visibly uncomfortable. Before I could finish explaining what Martha had endured, before I could even show them the messages where my daughter begged me not to send her to school, Amber cut me off. "Enough," she said. Her voice was sharp and cold. "Your daughter physically attacked mine. That is assault." I blinked. She leaned forward. Children who lack structure, who come from unstable homes, tend to act out. Amanda told us everything about Martha's situation. "No father, just you. And clearly," she gestured at me vaguely, "you're overwhelmed. Some women just aren't equipped to do this alone." Andrew slid a piece of paper across the table. It was a typed letter, a formal confession. It stated that I had failed as a mother, that my inadequate home environment had caused Martha's aggression, that I accepted full responsibility for being, and, I'm quoting directly, a bad mother. "Sign this," Andrew said calmly, "and we won't pursue assault charges." I stared at that paper, and then Principal Harrison said the words that broke something open inside me. "Until you sign and demonstrate remorse, Martha remains suspended." I walked out without signing. I sat in my car in that parking lot and shook. When I got home, Martha looked up at me with swollen eyes and asked the question that destroyed me completely. "Mama, why doesn't my daddy protect me? Am I suspended because Amanda was right? Because you're a bad woman?" That was the moment every wall I had ever built came down at once. Not because I was weak, but because I finally understood what my strength had been costing my daughter. I walked into the kitchen. My hands were shaking. I scrolled to a contact I hadn't called in over 20 years. "William Morales." I pressed call before I could talk myself out of it. He answered on the second ring. "Hazel." His voice was older, but calm, steady, like he had been waiting his whole life for this call. I couldn't speak at first, and then everything poured out. The bullying, the suspension, the letter, the way those two people had publicly dismantled my character, called me inadequate, told me I deserved to be abandoned. There was a long silence. When William spoke again, his voice was different. Not warm anymore, cold, controlled, like a man who had just made a decision. "Hazel, listen to me carefully. You are my daughter. Martha is my granddaughter. Those people have made a catastrophic miscalculation. Do not sign anything. Do not speak to anyone. I will handle this." "William, I don't want your money." "This isn't about money," he said quietly. "This is about family. And you have been my family since the day I married your mother. I'm sorry I let you push me away for so long. But I will not let you go through this alone. Not anymore." He told me to meet him at the school. 9 a.m. sharp. I didn't sleep that night. At 8:55 the next morning, I was standing outside Principal Harrison's office when a sleek black car pulled up. William stepped out. Tailored suit. The quiet confidence of a man who had never needed to raise his voice to make a room go silent. He walked straight to me, placed a firm hand on my shoulder, and nodded once. For the first time in 20 years, I didn't feel alone. We walked in together. The Dentons were already there, smug, settled, ready to watch me crumble again. Then William spoke. "Good morning, Mr. Harrison." The principal looked up and went pale. He knew exactly who William was. Everyone in that district did. William had funded half the school programs in the county. He sat on the district advisory board. He was, in the most literal sense, untouchable. "Mr. William," Harrison stammered, standing up. "I didn't know you were—" "I'm Hazel's stepfather," William said simply, "and Martha's grandfather. I understand there's been some confusion about accountability here. Allow me to clarify." Amber tried to recover. "We simply want an apology for the violence, sir. Surely you understand the importance of discipline?" William turned to look at her with a calm that announced destruction. "Mrs. Denton, your daughter psychologically tortured my granddaughter for weeks. She used deeply personal insults about Martha's family to break her down. When she destroyed Martha's property and taunted her for not having a father, Martha defended herself. That is not violence. That is survival. Andrew leaned forward. With respect, Mr. William, Martha shoved, "Your daughter bullied mine, relentlessly, maliciously, and you both participated in spreading vicious, slanderous statements about my daughter's character, calling her inadequate, calling her a bad woman. That, Mr. Denton, is defamation, and I don't tolerate it." The room was completely silent. William turned to Principal Harrison. "Here is what happens now. Martha is reinstated immediately with a formal written apology from the school. The Dentons will issue a written apology to both Hazel and Martha. Amanda will complete a full anti-bullying program. If any of this is refused, I will bring this matter before the school board, the local media, and my legal team simultaneously. Your choice. Make it now." Harrison looked like he might faint. 20 minutes later, I walked out of that office with Martha's reinstatement letter in my hand, a formal apology from the school, and the complete, total silence of two people who had entered that room believing they were untouchable. William didn't gloat. He didn't make a speech. He just squeezed my shoulder and said, "You are an incredible mother. Hazel, don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." Walking out into the sunlight that morning, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades. Protected, valued, loved. William didn't win a fight that day. He gave me back my dignity. He showed Martha and me that loyalty isn't something men promise. It's something real ones show up and prove. I spent 20 years punishing the right man for the sins of the wrong ones. Martha got her life back, and I finally got my father. If William's story reminded you what a real father looks like, hit that like button. Drop a comment and tell me, what would you have done in that principal's office? And subscribe, because every week we bring you stories where justice doesn't just happen. It arrives with precision. See you in the next one.